Rodriguez, the Jagger wants it back. He gets it back and leaves it through for Holtby. Oh, it's off the line. It's off the line.
So, George, we're going to start by talking about the Manchester Derby. Absolute snooze fest. Uh, both teams didn't look interested. There wasn't anything of note in the game. I think City had created better chances, but uh, after that, like the game just sizzled out, and yeah, it was a very disappointing Manchester Derby. And yeah, what did you think about the game
You
itself?
know, I think a lot of this has to do with how United have performed this season and the results that they're getting. Because if you think about it, bar the whole Tottenham game, but the last time a big team that came to United, it was also a snooze. It was also a snooze fest. That was Chelsea, and it was almost the same kind of thing, right? Where we said after that game that it was two managers playing cautious and just knowing the qualities that the other two teams had, the opponents had, and playing against that. It wasn't like playing against the other person's weakness, but playing against the other person's strengths. Does that make sense? So the City played so that they weren't hit on the counter. Okay. And United played lackluster, but they played in a defensive shape that would prevent City from creating chances. And both of them succeeded. That's why it was a draw, right? And I think all of this is just a credit to, I guess, United's performances. I can imagine Liverpool coming to Old Trafford and doing the exact same thing. Liverpool have not got a point from Old Trafford for, sorry, have not got a win in Old Trafford in a very long time. And I don't expect them to get one this season as well. And just because they are scared, I think all teams are scared about what United can do on the counter. And it's just down to that. And and so when in the second half, when Pep made the change on that right hand side to bring on Torres for Mares, which is a like for like substitution, you it was at that moment that we all realized that he has no plans to change his system, change his formation. He's come here for a draw. He's gonna get that draw and he's gonna go back home. City had like 1.6 XG to United like 0.6 or something. I mean, it's just proof that there was no creativity, and that was kind of what I can imagine if you ask Pep before the game, like, hey, 0-0 draw, you guys not creating that many chances. Is that what you expect? Probably he might not like tell you, but I think deep down that's probably what he wanted.
Yeah, and to take it onto United side as well, um, it just goes back to I guess both of these teams have this problem that they had in this game especially was the double pivot, and having Fred and McTominay and like Rodri and Fernandinho, it it takes that creative outlet from the team, and it's just so defensive, uninspiring, and that was ultimately why this game was shut down basically. And that's not what you want to see. There was no like I feel like all the pundits after the game were talking about it. Like you're going out on that pitch to try to win the game. That you need to remember that. And it was disappointing to say the least. I would say I would rather have got a winner and loser than a draw from a game like this. And it was actually important for both those teams to get a win that would take them into the top four. Well, for United, I would say still a good performance in the sense that I feel we were on the ropes after that humiliating performance in midweek. So looking back on that, I would say it's a good point for us.
Yeah, and then you also saw. This is the first time I think you're playing this kind of a formation. Or at least you're starting with this kind of a formation, with Pogba kind of like this free roaming left-sided midfielder with two double pivots. I mean, it's you could. I mean, yeah, on paper it's a 4-2-3-1. I don't think that's exactly how you played. It was
Yeah.
almost like a diamond because Greenwood will be right up there at the top, and you kind of have Fernandez in this number 10 role, and you have Pogba on the left hand side. So sort of like the skewed diamond. Um, it was. I mean, it's again just Solskjaer again experimenting with his formations. It's been what 3 months since the Premier League started. You have teams experimenting with formations maybe in the first month of the season, like Lampard, but find something that's stable, which Solskjaer still hasn't found. And he knows that there is talent in Pogba. He knows that there's potential, but he just can't seem to unlock it. And I think that's pretty sad. Um, but yeah, I don't know what you thought about that.
Yeah. So I feel like the decision to play Pogba in the first place is something that also has to be scrutinized because of the comments that have come out from his agent. I know Pogba has um, spoken about it after that, saying that he is 1000% committed to the club. But if he's 1000% committed to the club, you're not going to let someone that works for you to come out and say those things that he said and slate the manager. It didn't look good that his agent did question Solskjaer's capabilities as a manager. Well, he has his rights to his opinion, but when you're directly involved with the player at the club, uh, Solskjaer should have shown more backbone and said, "Dude, if you're not going to, if you're going to disrespect me and disrespect the club, you shouldn't play." However, I think Pogba was decent in the game. He didn't do anything to remember, but I don't think any of the players on either teams did. Even De Bruyne had a very quiet game. He just set up the one chance for Mahrez, which he probably should have taken, but United defended well, and we should give credit where credit is due in that sense. Uh, Lindelof and Maguire actually looked pretty solid this game, even with all the problems that they have and the lack of pace. But it was just side to side passing the entire game from United and their back four. They didn't want to drive forward. They didn't want to play the ball into those creative players like Pogba and Fernandez. And ultimately, I think we got the point that we deserve. City will probably feel a little bit more, hard done by to not go out for the win. They probably should have. And I think we were talking about this earlier that it was down to the double pivot of City that you're not a huge fan of, are you?
Yeah, no, I just feel it's a change up from last season and the season before that. I don't know. I think it's like Vishnu always says, it's just Pep overthinking and trying to change things up. And I think it's just detrimental to the team. It's not clicking. It's not working. They just cannot create the chances that they used to create before. And I think they registered 2 shots on target, which is exactly the same number as United. It was a pretty even game, to be honest. This is a kind of a fixture that City would have. You would imagine City would at least have more of the ball, considerable amount more of the ball. They didn't. It's just a 54% of the possession, which is pretty even. It's comparable. I mean, you can't really say that that City dominated this game. I think it was just relative dominance, not like an absolute dominance.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. And another thing that I wanted to say was the zonal marking that City was doing. I mean, we touched upon this last podcast. Zonal ain't it, chief. It's not it, especially for these big teams. You got players like Maguire in the box. It's it's just not working. And I think out of the 4 corners that United had, they got to the ball for 3 of them, if I remember right. I
Yeah.
don't know the actual stats, but I mean that's just a proof of how this is not working. And I'm so surprised that after all of this, teams are still going back to zone, especially big teams like Manchester City.
Yeah, definitely. And at the same time, when United go forward in those corners, uh, especially against a team like City, you're not probably going to break them down too often and pass through their lanes unless you can get them stretched. And this game wasn't going to be stretched by any chance of anything. So when we got those chances in the box, we should probably take it. I think United's conversion from set pieces is like shockingly low, especially when you think about the fact that we have good uh, people that can deliver the ball, like Fernandez. And to be fair, Shaw put in, I think, 3 of those corners that we did, attack and get to it first. So, and with those big lads up there, you need to be converting more. That's something that they should look at. And just to touch upon City's problems at the moment, don't you think like they're not having great individual performances anymore? Like you could say that Sterling used to put up amazing numbers, world class numbers, uh, to previous seasons. He doesn't look like he's at the races this season, does he?
Yeah, he when I see him, I I feel like he looks like Lewis Hamilton, but he doesn't perform the way Lewis Hamilton performs in his sport. I mean, it's just and that's just me. I just see that resemblance, but it's just that stark contrast in their sport. Yeah, yes, by stats, he has amazing stats from the start of whatever 2016 season. He has the most number of goal contributions in the league, and by a long shot. But it's just I don't know, man. It's the performances that he's put in from the back end of last season. It feels like he's on this path that he can't get out of. He doesn't influence games. I feel like if he's in the situation created by a De Bruyne or a David Silva or maybe even a Gundogan, when he's in those chances when created by those players, then yeah, he'll finish it off. But him individually influencing a game, carrying his team, which could expect from someone like him with the amount of talent that he just doesn't rise up to that challenge. That's why I feel like he is letting himself down with these performances, and he's on the decline. And I don't see him coming back out of this personally.
And it could be a factor that Sane has left the club as well,
Yeah, I,
because that rivalry was definitely would have been, trying to one up each other, and we we can see, how Sane is performing at Bayern Munich. He's still putting up those crazy numbers, scoring goals, and being involved in the game. And he would have been, I'm sure, he's still in the Premier League. Sane would have been tearing it up if he had the chance. Maybe they're missing him. They look like they're missing Silva way more than they actually should have been. I don't think they expected that Silva had such an influence on the team itself, not just on like for the 11 players on the pitch. Like they miss Silva a lot more than Aguero, I would say.
yeah. I mean, like if you think about it, even Jesus doesn't rise up to that challenge of filling
Yeah,
in the Guerrero shoes. So they have problems in up top. I think Mahrez is a quality player. I mean, he probably, like you said, should have finished his chance in this game. But the things that he has in his locker and the stuff that he can do, I really rate him. But other than that, I don't. Their front line and their left side is pretty dismal. They're also other than De Bruyne, they don't have many creative outlets in their midfield. So it doesn't look too great, honestly, for City. And this used to be a team whose bench could beat every single team in the league. And I don't know.
yeah.
I guess like things don't last forever. I guess everything has to comes in waves, right?
And sometimes
Yeah.
it's not really like it doesn't bring in that fear factor like City's bench of seasons ago that used to. Like pretty uninspiring, especially when you have players like Benjamin Mendy on your bench.
Yeah. Thanks. I'm so thankful that Cancelo has now replaced him as number one first choice left back for big games.
Yeah, but the problem with
What's up with
Cancelo
Ake, but
is
what's up with Ake? Does he not play anymore? Are they done? Did they rinse that
I think
50
it's
million?
that was just a money launder or something. Like I think he's been injured or something.
Is he injured?
Probably he wasn't in the
Probably.
match day squad. So
Yeah, probably injured. So yeah, I mean,
no, the thing about Cancelo though, he is a right-sided player playing on the left, and I don't think, especially for fullbacks, I don't think like an inverted fullback is a good idea because you saw many a time when Cancelo had the opportunity to put in the cross on his left, but he can't because he doesn't have that confidence in his left foot. and yeah, that's it's not his fault that he's playing on the left. So uh, even though that he is a big improvement on Mendy, uh, that that flow of the game gets disrupted a lot when Cancelo has to get to the byline. But what we see with Cancelo is he tries to drift inward and play the passes in that way. But that's not going to, like, when teams like United, how they did. They tried to crowd out that space and didn't have that much success. So I'm not sure if Cancelo is the be all and end all at left back. They probably, how City are. They're going to probably spend another 50 million trying to pull in another defender,
Yeah,
Real
and it's
Jack
not
or
going to be
whoever.
like a world class defender. It's going to be like a bang average defender that they're going to get.